the truth about insulin sensitivity for fat loss. This is a hot topic right now. It kind of comes and goes. Is it all insulin's fault? Is it kind of insulin's fault? Does it have nothing to do with insulin? So we're going to dive into that one. People will argue carbs make you fat because carbs spike your insulin. Insulin spikes block your fat loss, and don't you dare eat carbs at night, otherwise the insulin fairy will come and lead to fat storage. Now, if insulin truly was that powerful and controlled things like that, over half the population would gain 5 to 10 pounds every time they ate a banana because of how that affects insulin. So today we're going to break down what insulin sensitivity actually is, how it affects fat loss, and how to improve it, in whether it's just real science or just hype. And like with many things in nutrition, too long didn't read. The truth is it's somewhere in the middle. So what is insulin sensitivity? Insulin is a hormone. It helps move glucose, aka blood sugar, from the blood into cells. Think about it this way. Insulin is the key. Your cells, whether they're your muscle, fat, etc., are the doors. So if you have high insulin sensitivity, it's a very smooth lock. That key goes in, turns nicely, the door opens. If you have low sensitivity, the lock is rusted, worn out, and more insulin is needed to open that lock. So if you have insulin resistance, your body needs more insulin to do the same job. Higher instances of insulin resistance are linked to higher body fat, inactivity, and poor sleep. So yes, insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance are both real. They both matter, but the context matters much more. So does insulin prevent fat loss? Yes, temporarily. Now hear me out. It temporarily reduces fat breakdown. Insulin is known as what we call an anabolic hormone. Now you may have heard of anabolic in reference to anabolic steroids. Anabolic just means building. So insulin helps build things up. So it doesn't mean that it causes fat to be stored and gained. What causes fat to be stored and gained is eating too many calories, not from insulin just simply existing. So you can lose fat while eating carbs. You can lose fat with insulin spikes throughout the day. That's how the body is supposed to function. You eat carbs, your insulin goes up because it has to shuttle it into storage where appropriate. You can lose fat without going full keto. So fat loss is about a sustained calorie deficit, not micromanaging your insulin. You can do everything you want to manage your insulin, but if you're constantly eating too many calories, that insulin is going to continue driving those extra calories into storage. Now, where does insulin sensitivity actually matter? Well, it impacts your energy levels, your hunger, your blood sugar stability, long-term metabolic health. All these things matter. So insulin sensitivity doesn't determine whether fat loss happens, but it influences how easy or how hard it feels. For example, if you have stable blood sugar, you're going to have fewer crashes. If you have better insulin sensitivity, you're going to tolerate carbohydrates better. So how do we improve insulin sensitivity? Number one, lift weights. Your muscles are your biggest site of glucose storage. More muscle equals better handling of carbohydrates. Period. End of story. So, yes, we have an obesity epidemic in America. It's a fact. However, we also have an epidemic of people who just don't have muscle mass, and they're just soft. So you combine having low muscle mass with an excess of calories and food, your body's going to store those extra carbs very, very quickly, very, very easily, not where you want them. So prioritizing resistance training 2 to 3 days a week over endless cardio, over high intensity training, over 2-a-days. Remember, what we do in the gym, does it have a small effect on fat loss? Sure. However, fat loss is driven through nutrition, period, end of story. Second thing we can do to improve insulin sensitivity, walk daily. Even 5 to 10 minutes of movement after meals does help. So low intensity movement helps improve glucose control. So when we eat a meal, our glucose and our blood sugar, well, our glucose drives up because now we have more sugar in our blood, our body's breaking down nutrients. So insulin drives up. 5 to 10 minutes after a meal, and it doesn't have to be a walk. It just means don't leave the dinner table and go sit on the couch. Go do something. Play with your kids. Take your dog outside. Whatever. Just move your body for 5 to 10 minutes after eating a meal. That's going to improve your insulin sensitivity. Third thing, losing excess body fat. Now, you may be saying, I thought we had to get more insulin sensitive to lose body fat. No, you can still lose fat if your insulin sensitivity is not that great. It's harder, for sure. Remember, the lock and the key analogy. Visceral body fat, the dangerous type of fat that's deeper around your organs, greatly reduces your insulin sensitivity. This is why you see men with the token beer belly where it just protrudes out, but it looks like it's hard, right? It's not hanging and flabby. It's like hard. That's because all that fat is underneath their abdominal wall and it's around their organs, pushing out. That's visceral fat to the max. So that's why guys that have more central body fat storage, the beer belly, tend to do better initially on lower carbohydrate diets because their bodies have higher levels of insulin resistance. That high waist measurement is directly correlated with poor management of glucose. So a good rule of thumb is the more central body fat someone is storing, the lower their carbohydrate intake should be initially. And I say that initially because, again, you can increase your movement, increase your strength training, start to reduce that visceral fat. Your body will start to handle carbohydrates better like it's supposed to. With losing excess body fat, don't overcomplicate this. This is a whole topic for another day. Same rules apply. Balanced meals, protein at every meal, get your fiber from veggies and fruit, and moderate your starch portions. Sleep. It has been scientifically shown that all it takes is 2 nights of poor sleep to mess with your hormones and throw you into insulin resistance mode. Researchers have found with college-age students, so not even busy working adult parents, college-age students, 2 nights of sleep deprivation, they test their blood levels and they have the insulin resistance of someone with prediabetes because of 2 nights in a row of poor sleep. So sleep is not optional if you want metabolic health. Last one, stop eating the ultra-processed foods. Doesn't mean you can never eat carbs, but the constant, hyper-palatable, low-fiber, high-calorie, high-rewarding foods are just not helping you, period. So, should you change your diet based on insulin sensitivity? It depends. If you are sedentary, more overweight, storing more belly fat, and you know you have poor blood sugar control, one of the above, all the above, slightly lower carb can definitely help. Not because carbs are evil, but because total calories usually come down and it helps stabilize your blood sugar. Now, if you are lifting heavy 3 to 4 days a week, relatively active, managing stress, but you still want to lose a couple of pounds, carbs are not necessarily your enemy. They're going to help fuel your workouts. They're going to help fuel energy so you can train harder at your workouts. So you keep those carbs closer to your workout. And then the further you get away from your training session in the day, you can taper your carbs down. That's fine, but you don't need to go as low carb as you might think. So you don't have to go keto. You don't have to be afraid of fruit. Most people don't need to eliminate carbs altogether. I would go as far as saying all people don't need to eliminate carbs altogether, but they need to find what works best for them. So this, like many things, gets overhyped in the fitness industry because someone's usually trying to sell a product. So you'll see people saying, oh, you can hack your glucose response. This is how you never spike your insulin, or you're going to unlock metabolic flexibility secrets. Look, do these things somewhat matter? Yes. But most of the time, it's to try to get you to buy and hype and overhype something that you've just never given a fair shot. So if you're in that calorie deficit, if you're lifting weights, you're being patient, you will lose fat. Period. Now we can talk about the rate at which that happens, but again, different day, different story. I see too many people give up too soon. Insulin is not your main driver. Your lifestyle is. Most people don't have an insulin problem, they have a consistency problem. Now, again, if you know you have an insulin problem, you've been tested, you have high insulin circulating in your blood levels, you have high A1C, you have high blood sugar levels, well then yes, you need to do something to get that down. And depending on where you're at, you can do that through lifestyle and behavior changes or medical intervention. That's between you and your doctor. That's your choice. I'm going to leave it at that. So at the end of the day, insulin sensitivity is real. It's normal. We all have it. We all have levels of insulin sensitivity. Some of us are more sensitive. Some of us are less. Some of us are insulin resistant. It matters for long-term health. It definitely influences how your body handles carbs, but it's not the magic switch. So you don't need to micromanage insulin. You don't need to tweak every little meal and try this and that. You need to train hard. You need to eat structured meals. You need to move your body daily, sleep well, and have some patience. One of my favorite lines is, your dream body isn't Amazon Prime. It doesn't show up in 2 business days. You got to focus on the fundamentals, and the physiology will take care of itself.